I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents. Gospel music to the ears of one Queens parish.
A lot of people are very excited about it because of two things. One, it's new, and two, it's very, very well done.
A pioneer for civil rights you may not have heard of, and he comes from Brooklyn.
His life reflected so much the life of Jesus and the Good Shepherd.
And changing lives one child at a time.
This little girl looked up at me with the most beautiful, beatific smile I had ever seen in my life.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. In 2008, New York was the second largest market for gospel music sales, trailing only Los Angeles.
Every single year, that particular genre of music, gospel music, it brings in more than $500 million for record companies, if you can believe that. Wow. Well, there's no doubt about it. Gospel music is certainly popular.
That's right. And it's not something, though, that you'd expect to hear when you walk into a Catholic church. Until now. Parishioners at Sacred Heart Parish in Cambria Heights are clapping their hands and jumping for joy.
They sure are. They're incorporating gospel music into their parish through a program called The Experience.
The Experience came about as an expansion of the artistic movement here at Sacred Heart, because you have a choir, but they started to think, well, what would happen if we kind of chose people from all of the different choirs, the best musicians, the best singers, and then expanded even that to include acting, dancing, anything to express our Catholic faith.
Our faith lack promotion. You walk down the corner and there's somebody else handing you a pamphlet talking about being saved. And I think as a culture, as Catholics, we're not very vocal about our faith. And some people might tend to say that we're not very proud of our faith. So music being the area that we know well, and the area that moves us mostly and that binds our faith, is a great avenue for us to promote being Catholic and who we are.
When you first came here, what were some of the things that you noticed about the church?
You know, the liturgy, the masses, the sacraments needed a little sprucing up, that's all. A lot of people are very excited about it because of two things. One, it's new, and two, it's very, very well done. And it's an experience. I mean, you want to be there because it's not anything that you've ever had to encounter before.
We really try to get members that are very talented. We pray for that, and we really go out. But we're also members that are indeed Catholic and want to stay Catholic.
And just working with this choir has been amazing. Working with this group, working with the Experience has been amazing. I think that it speaks to a lot of people. I mean, we had a lot of fun out there, and I think hopefully, people are going to see that in the performance. But once, we're going to even be having more fun. Like, music for everybody is something that's there when you're down, when you're up, and I think that it's something that helps to deepen your faith.
And so I saw a good thing that could be made even better. So by a little bit more attention to detail, a little bit more support of the directors and of the musicians, we seem to have really developed something fantastic.
Father Patterson to me is a phenomenal priest and a phenomenal pastor, and he's been super supportive from the very beginning.
He hungers very much for the church to be more exciting, for the mass to be more exciting. He hungers for music that people can join in, and because even when we bring other music in, he loves it, and he goes, "Well, I wish you guys wouldn't say this." So having, now that we're more comfortable because we're really creating music that is around exactly who we are, for who we are, by us and for us.
It was like nothing I had ever seen, and it was fantastic. But then I started to get a little concerned because, you know, 5 o'clock Mass in just about any church on Saturday is not the liveliest crowd of people. And Michael Capobianco, who is our music director here, wanted to bring that to the 5 o'clock Mass, and I was like, oh no. You know, it's almost having my Fred Sanford moment, you know. This is it. The people loved it. The people loved it. I was very, very, very surprised. Then he tried the same thing at 8 o'clock Mass. The people loved it. And so this experience is quite an experience.
Wow, it really is. You get excited just listening to it. That is the experience at Sacred Heart Parish in Cambria Heights. Very enthusiastic and obviously filled with so much joy.
Yeah, a lot of joy and a lot of fun, too. Imagine that, fun in church. Well, stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. Coming up, ordaining women, a controversial priest speaks out. But just ahead, 6 years after the start of the Iraq War, Christians there are still on the run.
The international community cannot leave Iraq and just wash their hands of what they have done in Iraq.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up a little bit later, an early civil rights activist right in our own borough.
But first, let's have today's headlines. Concern for Iraqi Christians has only increased after 95 people were killed in bombings last week in Baghdad. An auxiliary bishop in Iraq tells the Catholic News Service that with these acts of violence, we lose everything. And as we hear from Rome Reports, the Christian ambassador to the country says help is needed.
It's been 6 years since the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq toppled Saddam Hussein's totalitarian regime. But for Iraqi Christians and other minorities in the country, it's been something of a bittersweet transition, going from life in an oppressive regime to living in a country where democracy is still flourishing.
The fact now is that they are free, and all Iraq used to be a big jail during Saddam's era.
Albert Yalda is Iraq's ambassador to the Holy See and the country's first Christian ambassador. He says Christians in Iraq are significantly better off now than before the war, because now they enjoy basic democratic rights like voting and freedom of speech. But he acknowledges that because they are a minority, a large number of Iraq's Christians have been forced to flee the country in the face of persecution by extremist groups.
I urge all the international community, organizations, the humanitarian organizations, to support our refugees and asylum seekers until such time that the situation in Iraq will be better, the security will be better. And mind you, this element of fanatic extremists and Al-Qaeda, I don't think we will be able to defeat them alone in Iraq.
Some political and religious leaders in Iraq have called for the creation of a Christian enclave that some argue would protect them from persecution, an idea Christian leaders like the Archbishop of Kirkuk rejected quickly. A former refugee himself, Yalda gave legal assistance to those seeking political asylum during the Iron Fist years of Saddam Hussein.
I stayed in exile and I supported and assisted, as I mentioned before, thousands of Iraqis who fled the country. So I will never blame any Iraqi, Christian or non-Christian, who is leaving Iraq at the moment.
Yalda believes the exodus of Christians and other minorities from Iraq will come to an end only if security in the country improves. And that cannot happen, he says, without the help of international players.
We need the support of the international community. The international community cannot leave Iraq and just wash their hands of what they have done in Iraq. There have been killing. Thousands of Iraqis have been killed. The infrastructure of Iraq have been destroyed by the war, which was waged to liberate Iraq.
According to the UN, about 500,000 of Iraq's refugees are Christians. An estimated 40% of the total of Iraqis who've escaped the war to neighboring countries like Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria.
Now, last Thursday is being called the bloodiest day in Iraq this year. A Scottish priest says he's glad the man convicted of the Pan Am flight bombing over Lockerbie, Scotland, has been released from jail. Father Patrick Keegans visited the former Libyan intelligence officer in jail and says he believes Abdelbaset Amegrahi is innocent. He was freed on compassionate grounds. Doctors determined that he had advanced prostate cancer and only months to live. A new state provision in Wisconsin now requires health insurance providers to include contraceptive services, and the bishops of the Wisconsin Catholic Conference are not happy about that. They say the move forces Catholic agencies that buy health insurance to pay for medical services they consider immoral. Self-insured dioceses are not subject to that mandate, however. Earlier this summer, the state's Department of Public Health saw Wisconsin's abortion rate dip, as it has for the 3 previous years. The 7th largest Christian church group in the U.S. has voted to allow gay men and lesbians in committed relationships to serve as members of the clergy. The Evangelical Lutheran Church in America came to that decision in a vote on Friday as members wrapped up their convention in Minneapolis. The Lutherans become the 3rd Protestant group, along with the Episcopal Church and the United Church of Christ, to allow those with same-sex partners to serve in their pulpits.
In Ireland, the year for priests is in fact a banner year for the number of new seminarians there. 38 men will begin studies for the priesthood this year. That's the highest number in a decade and well above last year's total of 24 new seminarians. It's a major turnaround for the Irish Church, which has seen the number of priests dwindling for the last several years. An excommunicated priest says the Catholic Church's opposition to women priests is a scandal. Speaking at an event near Boston, Roy Bourgeois called the church's position spiritual violence. Bourgeois, a priest in the Maryknoll religious order, was excommunicated for participating in a women's ordination ceremony last year. As far as the Catholic Church's position goes, Pope John Paul declared that the church has no authority to ordain women, citing tradition and the fact that Jesus' apostles were all men. Vacationers in Disney World now have another local attraction they may want to check out. It was finally made official over the weekend. The National Shrine of Mary, Queen of the Universe, is now a basilica. It is the 63rd basilica in the U.S. The U.S. Bishops' Conference is giving Catholics a head start on revised translations for the Mass. A new website includes background materials, sample texts, and frequently asked questions about the new English translation of the Roman Missal. You can just go to usccb.org/Roman Missal. The new Missal is not expected to be implemented for a couple of more years. Famed French chef Julia Child is making headlines once again with the new film Julie and Julia sweeping the box office now. Her 47-year-old cookbook is even topping the bestseller list. And now she's got a little competition from an unlikely source, perhaps. Sister Anastasia Petelnik has become one of Poland's best-known authors. She's written 5 cookbooks since 2001, sold over 1 million copies. Sister Anastasia says that her creations, like her fruit and cheesecake dessert, which is called A Nun's Secret, often come to her in her dreams. And she says the recipes are all gifts from God.
We do another food story, I'm telling you. It's been like the food show this past week.
It's good, though.
More currents coming up straight ahead and maybe more food. Who knows?
Coming up, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, and Monsignor Quinn, a civil rights pioneer from our own backyard. Well, every now and then, we will be profiling some men and the women that we're calling saints in the city. Yeah. Clever, huh?
And it is. And tonight, we're actually meeting an early pioneer for civil rights. Monsignor Bernard Quinn was the son of Irish immigrants, but did much to help black Catholics in the Brooklyn diocese.
His cause for sainthood is being considered right now, and tonight, he is our saint in the city.
We are here in St. Peter Claver Church. And earlier, we had a meeting of the Father Bernard J. Quinn Guild, which consists of a number of laypersons who are very enthusiastic in trying to promote the canonization of Father Bernard J. Quinn. As you know, or perhaps you do not know, Father Bernard J. Quinn is the founder of this church of St. Peter Claver Church, and he also founded St. Benedict the Moor Church in Jamaica, Queens, These were the two first churches for black Catholics in the diocese, of course, before before integration, because now our churches are open to all peoples. But in the 1920s, blacks were not really welcome, to worship, in the white churches. Father Quinn came at a time when African Americans were discriminated against in society, when they had very few opportunities. And Father Quinn did everything that he could to promote their well-being. So I do believe, that he should be canonized as saint, because his life reflected so much the life of Jesus and the Good Shepherd. Just recently, perhaps about 2 months ago, a number of silent movie films were found at the Little Flower Children's Services. And these films captured Father Bernard J. Quinn as a priest. But what does the films reveal? Reveals a priest who is very engaging, who loves people, who is related to people of all social classes.
I knew Monsignor Quinn as a young person. In my early formative years, I remember him well. I remember his funeral, which was probably the most outstanding event that occurred at that time in my life. I had never seen so many people present in one place for one event. That stands out in my mind. He was a spiritual leader to my family, to me personally, my neighborhood, and a great leader for the world.
Well, the antidote for hatred is the love which Father Quinn preached, and most importantly, is the love which he himself lived.
Well, that is Monsignor Bernard Quinn, tonight's saint in the city.
And we'll also be featuring more saints this fall. Stay tuned, there's much more current straight ahead.
Coming up, an American journalist tries to make a difference in the lives of children in India.
It just was clear as a bell to me. This is the way I can live out my Catholic life.
Finally tonight, we meet a man who has been on an amazing journey. His name is Paul Wilkes.
And he's had several titles throughout his lifetime as well. He's been a journalist, a television producer, co-founder of a charity, and for a while he even considered becoming a monk.
But right now, you're going to hear him talk about another important chapter in his life in tonight's Eyewitness.
I think we live out our faith in a very simple and very transparent way. I think God opens doors for us all the time. He just offers little opportunities to us and says, Paul, how about this one? How about this one? How about this one? And let me tell you about one of those opportunities in my own life. I was in India, tourist, air-conditioned car, having a great time. And we came to an orphanage. I was brought to it just because, by accident, really. And at the orphanage was this Salesian nun, and a little girl was standing next to her, and she had sunglasses on, and I asked the sister, what's going on? Nobody else had sunglasses on, and the sister took the sunglasses off, and I could see one of the eyes was dull. This little girl had been kidnapped, and someone had plunged a darning needle into that eye and blinded her on it. On that sunny, hot day in India, this little girl looked up at me with the most beautiful, beatific smile I had ever seen in my life, and something happened. I don't know what it was. I don't know what I was going through in my mind, but I just looked down at her and smiled back and I said, I'm yours. And what that meant, what it has meant, is that I have, in essence, with my wife, adopted that orphanage. I mean, I can't take care of 500 million people in India. I can't go to Darfur. I can't go to Biafra. I can't go to a lot of places in the world, Appalachia, inner cities of our own cities, Brooklyn. But here I saw this little girl blinded by somebody's greed, sleeping on concrete, not eating the right kind of food. And I said, if I concentrate on this one orphanage, I can make a difference. It was like the Good Samaritan. It was like I probably have been given this opportunity many times in my life, and I just patted her on the head and gave her $5 and traveled on. This time it was different. And all of a sudden it just was clear as a bell to me. This is the way I can live out my Catholic life. I don't think I said it that way. I don't think people go around saying, well, I'm going to live out my Catholic life this way. This had been welling up in me. This is part of my formation. This is grade school, high school, college, and Catholic schools. This is my mother and father. It all came together just in that one moment where I said, look, Paul, your kids are out of college. You have no material needs. You have a coat on or a pair of pants and a pair of shoes, and you have a car and your house. You can make your payments. What else do I need? And I said to myself, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take care of Rena and these girls in the orphanage. And since that day, we've been able to build them a new dormitory. 5 of those girls are on to college. They have a new vehicle. They have clean water. Just because of that one smile on that sunny, hot afternoon in Cochin, India, at Home of Hope Orphanage. It changed my life. It really gave me the opportunity to live a full Catholic life with and for those kids.
That is Paul Wilkes. He is our eyewitness.
Well, definitely a story about really how God works in mysterious ways, because he happened to come across this orphanage and happened to change his life. It's amazing.
And I think that the way that it was building within him that he alluded to is something that a lot of people experience. It's not necessarily the first time that you try to do something or awaken to something that you actually execute it and make a decision to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak. But he obviously was very touched by this little girl, and you can see why. That's right. It's made a difference in his life, and he's been able to make a difference in the lives of a lot of other people. So it's really a great, great thing. For sure. Well, thank you so much for watching this edition of Currents. And as a special thank you to you, our viewers, we want to take you out to the ball game. Yeah, come and join me. We have some family 4-packs of tickets to see the Brooklyn Cyclones. They face off against the Vermont Lake Monsters. That is tomorrow night. The game starts at 7 o'clock, but the doors open at 5:30. And be there, and you can actually be there on us. All you have to do is go to our website. It's netny.net. Click on the Cyclones ad that comes up there. Follow the instructions, and we will let you know if you're a winner. Now, as the very special treat that is going to happen tomorrow night. I don't know if it's that special. She's being humble. Is our own Francesca Maxime is going to be throwing out the first pitch tomorrow night. I know I'm going to be trying to throw out the first pitch. I've been eliciting some comments from my friends again today because I never really did practice. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but it's true. I don't really know when to practice, but I've heard that you use the 3 fingers, you stand in front of the mound, and then there's this whole website devoted to pitching that some friend of mine gave me the link to, so I'm going to study that tonight. Please do. Go visit it, because, I mean, you know, you don't want to go to the game and then Francesca beans the umpire on the head. Well, that's what I was going to say. A friend of mine said, just don't hit the catcher. Right. At least if you hit him in the glove, you know? That's where you're going for. Well, that is all, thankfully, for this edition of Currents. Tomorrow, has Lino Rulli met his match? He catches up with a youth minister who is pumped about the faith. And remember, you can always catch us online. Just go to netny.net/currents to reel us in. That's right. Very nice. I like the puns. We'd also like to hear from you. Send us an email. The address there is drop us a line at currentsny.net. I just got that one. Like, drop it like a fish hook in the water. Yeah, see? Yeah, I just got that one. I'm a little slow. When it comes to the puns, anyway. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Francesca Maxime. And I'm Matt McClure. Have a great night. Yeah, I just got that one. Drop us a line. Yeah.